Hey everyone, going live here. We're going to do a live open a facility, an assisted living facility webinar, episode number 19. I'm going to start doing these regularly, try to do it once a week, either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and just kind of go through, opening a facility. So we do have a free video out there called, it's part of 10 steps to open an assisted living facility, and it's step number one. And it talks about, is this business right for you? So I want you to go ahead and watch that, make sure this business is right for you. And, as you know, if you've talked to us on the phone, we are not trying to sell you on a big seminar or a production and get you to come and tell you what you want to hear. If you call us and we don't think this business is right for you, we'll tell you, hey, I think you should consider something else, because ultimately we don't want people to make decisions without all the information that they can possibly have. And if we can help one person either go into the business and make the right decision and have success, then we're impacting the people that are in facilities, and we're impacting you. And if we stop you from opening a facility because maybe you shouldn't, then I think that also has a positive effect. So today I'm going to talk to you about startup costs and funding the business. And a lot of times people want to get into the business because they think it's easy. Let me just, take a house. I've got a rental house, or I'm going to go rent a house, and I'm just going to put people in each room, and I'm going to, $3,000. I can put 6 people in here, and I can collect. Like, it seems really simple, but it's really a lot more complex than that. There may have been a time 20 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, where it was really that simple. Literally rent a house, get a license. It wasn't a big deal. But nowadays with, regulations, it's a lot more complex. Not only that, if you're aware, the real estate market right now is really crazy. So it's not really that simple to get a house, and it's not simple to just contact the landlord and they're desperate to rent the place out, and they're just happy that you would rent it. So the most important thing is you have to realize, do I have enough money to start the business? And how much money you have can determine what path you may want to go. If you have any questions, you feel free to ask them. I'll try. I don't know if I have the chat open. So I tell people to be honest with me. Tell me how much money you have set aside to open this facility. And listen, if you tell me $10,000, I'm going to say it's going to be tough, but I still can kind of coach you in a way that you could accomplish this, but it's not going to happen right away. You need fire sprinklers, you need fire alarms, you need generator systems. You need to acquire the property. So whether you're buying the property or you're putting a down payment or you're renting the property, you still have to give a deposit and first and last security deposit. And then the property's vacant. So how much can you afford is really related to how much money you have to invest. And if you have, $100,000, I could tell you that maybe it's better to buy an existing facility that has existing residents, and with SBA loans and different things, you can get up with a 10% down payment into $1 million place. If you don't have experience or you don't have the credit that you need to get a loan, then it might be a little harder. So, when in some of our videos that you'll see will go on, we go into great detail on how much it will cost you to open. And you need to know what all of these costs are going to be. For example, I mentioned sprinklers. Well, sprinklers can range depending on the type of the house, depending on your city where you are, depending on, it's not cheap. It used to be, I'd say 10 to 15,000, but I've seen estimates as high as 35,000 from some people in Tampa and Clearwater area. So I think you have to really understand that sprinklers are a big component, and not every city requires sprinklers. So you need to understand the local requirements. If you go over a certain number of beds, everybody's going to require sprinklers. But if you're at 6 beds, as a general rule, I would tell you that you're going to have to put sprinklers in. And so just that chunk alone. Now you could find a house that has sprinklers. We do sell facilities that have closed down and has all the equipment. We're getting a listing like that in Daytona Beach. It's got all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So fire alarms can be about $5,000. Then you've got all the furniture you've got to put in there, the living room, the dining room, all the dishes. You need your food, emergency food. It takes quite a bit. So renting versus buying. Now, if you're going to rent a property, the challenge is finding a landlord that's willing to rent you the property. If the economy changes, right now, March 2022, there are no landlords out there that are desperate. If they put their house up for rent, they'll literally have 10 applications that same day if it's not way overpriced. Now, you may find something that's overpriced that's sitting there and the landlord's just saying, I want $4,000 for this, and no regular renter's willing to pay it. You may be able to get in, but you're going to pay a premium for that. Now, if it gets you in, it gets you in. But you're still going to have to come up with your down payment. I'm sorry, your usually security deposit, first month's and last month's rent. So if it's $4,000 and it's $4,000, you have to give 3 months. That's $12,000 just to secure the property. And then let's say your rent is due the first of the month. Let's say the 1st of April, or maybe you paid the first month, and you have to pay for May. The property's going to be vacant, or you move into it. I guess you could move into it and live in it, but it's going to take time to coordinate and get all these things installed, whether it's sprinklers, fire alarms, generators, and coordinating the health inspections, coordinating the fire inspections. So I would say renting versus buying, it is easier to buy a property. It's the easiest way in is to use a property that you already own. So the first question I always ask people is, can we turn your house that you live in into an assisted living? And then when it's ready, move on and buy another house and move into it. Because the banks are going to be very happy to give you a loan if you qualify as a residential house that you'll live in, because it has a lower default rate, a lower risk loan for the banks, and they can do as little as 0 down for you to buy your personal residence. So that's one way to acquire a property, is if you move into it. Move into it, it's going to be your personal residence. But even in this market, it's also hard to get a house that with 0 down, because a lot of sellers they're getting cash offers and high down payments. So I would say that's definitely one of the most challenging, but if you think about it, it is one of the most important things. Like, it's a house where people are going to live, or a building that people are going to live. So we need to analyze what's the best path forward. Come on, cheat sheet here, okay? So I think we always encourage people that if you start learning now, when an opportunity comes up, you can jump on it and you'll truly understand it as a good opportunity, where you might not understand it as an opportunity if it's the first thing that gets presented to you. So we can set up searches for you to find properties that were former assisted living facilities, or have sprinkler systems, or some components that might work for you. You can also contact us, because we do constantly sell facilities that the owners retired and they decided to close, and the real estate, they're just going to sell the real estate, and it's got all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We've sold just this year, 2022, we've sold 3. We have a 4th. We have a 5th. We have a bunch of them that do come up. May not be in the area that you're in. Are you willing to relocate? So if you're not willing to relocate, the odds of you finding what you want may drastically reduce. So how much money can I make? It really varies. Small homes, 6 beds, can make as little as $10,000 a year. And I would say if it's efficiently run and done well, it can make $50,000 to $70,000 a year. Now, each additional bed that you increase, you go to 8 beds, for example, versus 6. Your costs don't really go up much more, but your revenue is dramatically different. So let's say you rented out 2 more rooms for $3,000 each. That would be an extra $36,000. I'm sorry. That would be an extra $72,000 a year just for those 2 extra rooms. So I think that if you can, I always say this: people who get into it and they do a 6 bed, they wish they had an 8 bed, and people that had an 8 bed wish they had a 10 bed, and people that had a 10 wish they had 20. And so getting into something bigger may take a little more time and a little more patience, and you have to figure out, what are my objectives? If I'm going to quit my job and I just want to run my own business, and maybe I'm a caregiver or a registered nurse or whatever it is, and I'm okay with, because it is a job. Running a 6 bed or running an 8 bed is still a job. There's not going to be a manager that you put in place unless you're in like a very, very affluent area and you can charge $7,000 a month in rent. I mean, you can also get it if you charge $5,000 or $5,500, but there's still going to be, most people who have a 6 bed facility are owner operators, and there's caregivers. And the caregivers could be elevated to, say, an assistant manager with additional responsibilities, but ultimately a lot of the major responsibility is going to fall on you as the owner operator. So the caregivers will be like, hey, we don't have any more paper towels, and you need to go answer the phone when families call and they have issues, or if somebody wants to see the place because you have a vacant room. You want to build those connections with people. So you have to ask yourself, is that okay? Is it okay that I make that much money? The good thing about opening a facility is that if you're good at it and you do it right, in theory, you could have more than one. So it's not like you can only work one job because you only work, you only have so many hours in a day. But because you can open a few facilities, you in theory could have 2 facilities that make, $30,000 to $70,000 or whatever it is. Or you could do a 6 bed and then realize, like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, and now I've saved up money and I want to open a bigger place and maybe go to a 10 bed, 12 bed, 16 bed, something like that. I think that's a good path. Now, so there are in the assisted living business, it's not really rocket science. There's so many expenses that you have. Some of them are fixed and constant, and some of them are variable. For example, your mortgage payment would be a fixed cost, or your rent payment would be a fixed cost that doesn't change based on the month or whatever it is. And it's also variable to where you buy your property, though. So let's say you buy a property in Jupiter, Florida, and the houses are $800,000 for a 3-bed, potential 6-bed facility. Your mortgage payment is going to be a lot higher than if you bought something in Port St. Lucie or Tampa or someplace in maybe a less expensive place. So you could have somebody that has a 6-bed and their mortgage payment is $5,000 or $6,000, or another 6-bed where their mortgage payment is $1,500. Your taxes on your property are going to be constant, right? So you got to factor in your property taxes. Your labor cost, a lot of people want to get into this and they think a 6-bed is fine, but your labor costs can be a challenge sometimes with a 6-bed because you only have so much money, and you are competing against larger places that have a little bit more resources. They can provide benefits. So if you have a employee, some of the 6-beds, some of the smaller facilities, they actually have to do live-ins, or they do 24-hour shifts, or they get creative. And I've had people that only wanted to hire a particular type of employee and really polished, but those same employees could probably get a job at a hospital, get a job at a nursing home, get a job at a doctor's office. So you're competing for the higher tier people, and they're going to demand a higher pay. And so you have to factor those things in. What are you comfortable with as far as type of employees you're going to hire? When you're looking at a particular area, you want to see what your competition would be like. If a lot of the facilities in town offer private rooms, and that's primarily what they offer, and you think you're going to go in and say, well, I'm just going to offer shared rooms and I can get the same rate, that's probably not going to be the case. So you have to figure out, I mean, can I do shared rooms? Is it common in Miami or, a place? It's probably pretty common to do shared rooms for a smaller facility, but maybe not in more affluent areas. Maybe you want a 4-bedroom house that you can offer 2 private rooms and 2 shared rooms would be 6. 4-bedroom house does that. A 3-bedroom house only allows you to do 3 double rooms. So those things factor into how much you can actually charge and how much revenue you can actually calculate, because it's not a set formula to say, I am telling you you're going to make, you can charge $3,500 or you can charge $4,500. I've seen facilities that can only charge $1,800 and they're getting partial government funding for those people. Now, there are models that work for that. Those type of people don't necessarily need a lot of help. So it's easier on your employees. Now, so what are the average rents in your area? You're going to have to go around and you're going to have to check and do secret shopping and find out what the average rents are in your area, okay? Because these all matter when you're trying to figure out the right location. Now, if you go around to these places and there's a lot of vacancies and the owners seem desperate and they have low rates, I would probably shy away from that particular market. If everybody's full and nobody returns your phone calls, then the chances are that it's and they're full, you go there and they're full, or they have 1 vacancy and you check back in with them and it's gone. So management, like I said, in a smaller place, you're going to be managing it yourself most likely. If you get up to a few facilities, like maybe 3 smaller places, you could probably afford a manager for the 3, but ultimately it's going to fall on you. And, if you think you can hire a manager for $14-15 an hour, I don't think that's the case. And there's not a lot of money left over in the pot to pay a manager. So you got to be aware of that smaller places, if somebody is calling out sick, you may have to cover shifts as well. And so these are just the realities of smaller places. Now, when you get up to larger places, I was talking to a lady, she has a 30-bed facility, and when she has a sick call, she has a list of employees that she can call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She can eventually offer overtime or double time or bonuses, or the employees can trade amongst themselves if they have to get a day off. That's how it was at our facility. We were 32 beds, so we had a lot of people that we could call, but when I called somebody in, I always offered them time and a half. Now, that's the benefit of having a bigger facility, but some of you might not be able to start at a bigger facility, but just know that the path is there for you to do it. We had a client that we sold their 6-bed. She was so successful. She built it up. She was a RN, and she did great. And she built a 10-bed, and she moved her residence into the 10-bed. Then she's building a 19-bed. And so she's able to do these things because she's learning and she's starting small. So there's definitely a path for it, but you have to be willing to grind it out and build up that business and that experience. There's a few different types of services you can offer, right? Memory care is one of them. Florida memory care is not as complex as, say, Oregon memory care, or other states might have super strict requirements on creating a memory care. Every assisted living facility can offer memory care. You just have additional training requirements and maybe secure entry, but ultimately it is something you can offer. A limited mental health facility. Limited mental health residents are residents who are state funded and have particular diagnoses, but ultimately limited mental health in assisted living are lower income. You're only going to get maybe Social Security, some disability, and usually Medicaid. Medicaid can contribute about $1,200 if they're on the long-term care program, and if they're on the MMA program, maybe just a few $100s. So there's a big, if you're going to be a limited mental health facility, ideally you want to have a larger facility. I've seen it work in 8 beds though, but you've got to have your mortgage payment really low. You can also transition to APD type, adult persons with disabilities, and service a different type of clientele. Secure unit, so is your facility secure where it's got a punch pad to get out or get in? If you do that, the fire marshal is going to have a say because they're going to want to make sure that that people can get in and out. There's a way to do it. And so, you know, secure units add cost because it's got to be tied in with your fire alarm system, and your egress has to check their boxes. Nursing services, you can offer nursing services with a limited nursing services license or an extended congregate care license. This is in Florida. So those are some of the additional things. You can also offer adult daycare services. There's funding available through the Veterans Administration, the VA, long-term care insurance. Some people have long-term care insurance. If you want to get a loan, most people are going to get a business loan, and it's backed by the Small Business Administration, the SBA. Generally, the interest rates are higher. They require anywhere from 10 to 20% down. You could get a regular bank loan, but it's very tricky because they don't like anything that's business related. So if the real estate value is, say, you know, $300,000 and the seller's trying to get $400,000, the commercial bank's not going to like any of that. There are grants I've seen, BBIF, and a few like that. I don't know much about it, but it's a Black Business Investment Fund. I haven't heard of any other grants. People always call me and ask. You can cooperate with other investors. And when you do get the SBA loan, they will give you working capital to help fund you until you get the business started. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed episode number 19. I'm going to be doing these regularly, so please join and you can ask me questions. Have a great day. My ALF training for your core training, 26-hour core training. Also, there's a business training on there. We're going to be having an ebook coming out. If you want to look up some of the assisted living facilities we have for sale, go on to My ALF Consultant and you can search under facilities. Thank you and have a great day.